listening to the INL podcast with Graham Bradshaw and Philip Watkins, brought to you by Integrated Nutraceuticals Limited, Hong Kong. We're grateful to have you with us. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hi there, Philip Watkins, Naturopath and Director of Education here at INL. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the INL podcast. In this month's episode, we are joined by Andrew Cox, one of the foremost figures in Hong Kong's health and fitness industry. As well as being Director of Training for Joint Dynamics, Hong Kong's well-loved fitness and physical therapy facility, Andrew is leading the charge towards a shift from reactive health to proactive health by working comprehensively with individuals, teams, and corporations on health performance and productivity. Andrew is a fantastic speaker, and his energy is infectious, as I'm sure you'll hear from this episode. We touched on many things, such as taking things back to basics, the difference between movement and exercise, and how you might find your reason to exercise by actually just doing it. We also had a lovely story from Andrew about a lady named Trevor who just needed to put her sneakers on. Don't forget that if you want to know more about INL or the products and services we provide to healthcare practitioners, you can either check out our website at www.inl.asia or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn for exclusive access to our educational content. For now, we hope you enjoyed this month's episode. Hello there and welcome to another episode of the podcast. My name is Philip Watkins and I'm very, very grateful to be joined by one of my favourite guests from Hong Kong on the INL podcast today. Welcome, Andrew Cox.
Hi mate, great to be here.
It's really, really good to be here. We've been talking about this for quite a little while. The big subject for us today, as per the intro, is that we're going to touch on just exactly what movement, exercise, and everything to do with physiology and exercise physiology and what that actually means for people who are either a practitioner who are trying to help people or someone who's trying to help themselves. Now, you've got years of experience, and I think one of the really big things that I'm really hoping that we can draw out of you today is some of the commonalities or universal themes that you've seen throughout your experience, and then whatever you think is important and great for us to hear about. I want to get started first off with a question. Now, a lot of people I know who are involved within movement and involved in exercise physiology, we tend to see, okay, so there's strength and conditioning, there's endurance training, so there's a lot of different forms of exercise and for different contexts, for example, right? Now, I wanted to start off with what a simple or universal themes that you generally see across all of these things that you think are kind of important for people to start, because I think there are so many options within movement and exercise that I think in some cases, and you might be able to comment on this as well, I don't want to make too many parts of the question, but it seems as if there are so many options that it can be quite paralysing for someone who either wants to get started or offer or point someone in the direction to progress. So what are some of the common themes that you like to start with in relation to getting started with exercise, or why you would say to someone it's important to start here?
Great question. Loaded question.
There was a lot there.
There's a lot in that. So if we break it down, so we're talking about body composition. In order to, or any change in the body, I'm here at point X and I want to go to point Y. That means I need to change behaviour and I need to be consistent. So if we just start with consistency, how do you achieve consistency? There's many ways, but when we talk about exercise, and I love the way that you said movement, and you differentiated exercise from movement. Strength and conditioning 101, first takeaway of the day.
Yeah.
Before I can load you like an athlete, you need to be able to move like an athlete.
Yeah, that's
so what
right.
does loading someone like an athlete mean? Load, if we look at force, what is force? According to Sir Isaac Newton, force is mass times acceleration. So if I put extra load on your body, say I weigh 80 kilos, if I put another 80 kilos on my back, my body has to generate more force to control that, and I do a back squat, has to control that to come down, and then has to produce quite a lot of force to come up. So that's loading my body with extra mass. F equals m times a. And then there's acceleration as well. So if I go walking, well then there's a certain amount of force my body needs to produce and reduce, or probably the other way around, reduce to produce force. If I go jogging, if you accelerate an object, the force applied increases. So if I go jogging, then I have to reduce and produce more force. If I start sprinting or jumping, then I need to be able to reduce and produce more force. Obviously, the first thing that everybody out there is thinking right now is, I bet before you can put 80 kilos on your back, Andrew, you better get someone to be able to handle 40 kilos on their back. And maybe before they can do 40 kilos on their back, and I just chose a back squat, a rudimentary exercise.
Fine.
It's a great exercise, but
it is.
There's 1,000 great exercises. Maybe we need to see that they can squat without weight on their body. So before I load anyone like an athlete, and in everyone's an athlete, mate, my job to prove it to them, isn't it? People come in and think, well, I'm not very athletic. Maybe not now, you're not, but you certainly have the potential, because if evolution, it's a pretty compelling story. You were pretty awesome. Your father's father, or your mother's mother's mother was pretty awesome, because they were hunter-gathering and doing all the stuff that our body's designed to do. So before I can get you to a position where you really are going to enjoy exercise, first let's get you moving well. And often in my industry, one of the things that I struggle with in my industry is this no pain, no gain mentality. I enjoy stepping into the pain cave at certain times. It's it's almost like a form of meditation, isn't it? The world ceases to exist when you step into the pain cave. And by the pain cave, I mean when you work to a point really hard, where you exert yourself physically, which is also mental and emotional exertion as well. When you step to that place, you know what I mean? Like it's actually a really nice place to visit every now and then, as long as you're prepared for that. So before we can get there, though, there needs to be a joy of movement. The problem with the no pain, no gain mentality is... Sorry, I just hit the table, sorry. The problem with the no pain... I'm trying to get my point home.
I love it.
The problem with the no pain, no gain mentality is it might work for you and I, because we like to exercise and we understand the benefits, we understand the physiology. But a lot of my clients, for example, a lot of the clients from Joint Dynamics, they don't know enough about it, and they're just coming because my wife, my son, my friends, everyone is telling me I need to exercise, but they aren't A, emotionally connected to it, and B, it doesn't feel good to them. So before I can initiate any long-term behavioural change, before we can really start to load you like an athlete, which means you will start to look more like an athlete, or change your body composition, reduce fat, put on some muscle, before I can do that, there needs to be a joy of movement. And you don't just get that by turning up and going hard straight up. Sometimes we need to back off, and rhythm is a beautiful gift on the body. Rhythm means that I can become more efficient. I can get more done for less effort, for less work. So sometimes in those early days, and actually throughout my whole client's lifestyle, throughout my whole client's journey of working with me or any of my team at Joint Dynamics, there's a process of understanding rhythm and athletic movement and loading and unloading of the tissues. We know every single joint in the body moves forwards and backwards, side to side, and in rotation. Some move more forwards and backwards, some move more side to side, and some move more in rotation. But all the joints in the body do that. Actually, if we step back again, in order to maintain healthy joints, which means I will enjoy movement, I will enjoy exercising, I'll enjoy playing with my kids, I'll enjoy going for a walk, I'll enjoy you asked me to play basketball this afternoon. Of course I will, because I haven't got that thought in my head. If I don't enjoy movement, if I do have compromised joints, which leads to pain, you know what, Philip's asked me to play basketball, he's a good mate, bloody hell, it's going to hurt my back, or it's going to hurt my hip, or it's going to hurt my knees, I'm going to feel like crap tomorrow. Sorry, mate, you know what, I'm probably just going to go home and watch a movie. And that's an opportunity lost. So there's the pursuit of the perfect body, whatever that is, or there's the pursuit of a better body. But sometimes, we need to experience pain. Please don't disregard that. You need to experience discomfort. You need to become friends with getting uncomfortable. Otherwise, nothing changes. But if you can get that, and just say we increase the health of your hip. Your hip is your lower back's best friend. It's your knee's best friend. If you have good, adequate range of motion throughout your hip joint, and you have good control of that range of motion, you've got good rhythm and timing with movement, do you know what? All of a sudden, movement becomes more joyous to me. It actually feels good to move. Then it's not the pursuit of, the mythical perfect body that I'm chasing. It will ensue as a result of, of course I'd love to play with you, Philip, because I feel great. And I just feel more confident in movement, so naturally I will do it more often. So there's this paradigm shift that I really try to get all the people that I touch, all the people that I get to work with, to, yes, the pursuit of something better, optimizing is important as well, but don't forget a lot of these things can ensue as a result of just go after movement. If you move well, oh man, it's a different world. Like if your first thought is, hey, do you want to come play basketball with me? And your first thought is, oh, what about my back, knees, shoulders, hips, ankles? Then that's not the way it should be. Your first thought should be, absolutely, I'd love to come play basketball with you, Philip, because it's fun. We're probably going to talk some crap. I'm going to, pretend that I'm better than I am. I'm going to get caught up in nostalgia. I'm going to heckle you when you go to shoot. We're going to laugh like you're doing right now. And that's an amazing... Exercise is one of the best social lubricants you can find. Because when you move your body, when you exercise, the body responds by releasing these really good hormones that put you in a better mental state. You retain energy better for a period of time. You're naturally more joyous. You've got natural more energy. So exercise, if you can start, because you don't have those limitations of, oh, mate, I'm just my knees playing up. If you're like, oh, yeah, I'd love to play basketball. What a great idea. You naturally have the confidence to go there to start with. And then once you're there, all the other good stuff, the endorphins, the great things that happen when we exercise, me and you having a go at each other, laughing, pretending that I'm better than what I am and all this sort of stuff, that's a great place to be. And when we get there, mate, everything else is a lot easier. You'll want to play with your kids more, you'll want to play with your mates more, you'll want to exercise more because now you're experiencing how good it feels to feel good. And that's confidence. My dad used to say the difference between a good athlete and a great athlete is the top 2 inches. So the mentality but that's high level performance. Real confidence, not cockiness. Cockiness comes from above the chin, doesn't it? I can be cocky. Like if you say, Andrew, do you want to play basketball against me and my 5 mates? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And I will smash you. Me versus you and your 5 mates? No way I'm going to smash you. You're going to beat me every time. I can be cocky. But if I had trained the house down, and I've been playing basketball, and I'm not very good at basketball, I just chose basketball. I should have said rugby league, boxing, or water polo, or surfing. I chose basketball, I don't know why. Anyway, but if I trained a lot, then confidence is from the chin down. My body's like, oh yeah, let's go, mate. Cockiness can be from the chin up. Me getting my capabilities and my ambitions a little bit disconnected, a little bit out of order. That's cockiness, and cockiness doesn't get you so far. You have to earn confidence. Cockiness, anyone can be cocky, but can you back it up? Confidence is that.
One of the key things that I think I've heard you say is that, and it actually aligns with one of the clinical indicators that I use to know that people are recovering from illness, and it's I think the way I tend to describe it to people is a sense of physical competency. And you've actually brought up one of what I feel like is one of the more interesting kind of elements of exercise is that when I see patients who, let's say they're recovering from chronic fatigue or something along those lines, something that is a chapter of someone's life in that they've been suffering with symptoms for a year, 2 years, whatever that is. One of the key things that I see nearly across the board is that the first thing they want to do when they feel more physically competent is they naturally gravitate towards exercise. And it's interesting that you've mentioned that in some cases you may not actually need to wait to feel that way. You can actually go in and work with someone to help you get there before you maybe feel yourself that you're ready. And I think this is a really, really important part of how we help people who are trying to get on track. Now, I love that, the top 2 inches element of it and the mentality side of it. It seems to me that for a lot of people, they don't feel like they can. But also, exercise is, in my opinion, often similar to vitamin C in that everyone knows it's really valuable, but then no one takes it or people don't engage in it. And I think, we've had conversations around this before. If I'm one of those people, what do you tell me around that? I know I should exercise. Everything that you've just told me is so true. I've exercised in the past. I get the endorphins. I feel better. It's not just happening for me. My doctor tells me if I don't exercise, my cardiovascular system's never going to recover. I'm going to have higher stroke risk. What do you tell me if I'm that person?
I think the doctors told them a lot. So what drives behavioural change? Fear. If you tell me that I'm going to have a heart attack, and then I link that to my life and I link that to what's meaningful to me, for me as an individual, that's meaningful enough for me to change my lifestyle.
Sure.
But not for everyone, which is crazy, isn't it? It's because it's not. And that's as true as I sit here, because, you know, we see people every day, and that's not enough for some people. So sometimes the process, and it doesn't have to, you know, a lot of the times people say you need to find your why and then you'll find your way. But often we don't find our why at the start.
No.
So one of the great things about working with a coach is it's a commitment. And you don't have to work with a coach. Now you can work with a coach called your iPhone, because there's apps that will track you, and the algorithm will increase the steps that you need to take. And it's linked to human reward behavior. It buzzes at 10,000 steps. Oh, yes, 10,000 steps, I did it again. So there's that reward pathway. So what I tell people that come and just say I have this first meeting with someone and they've just said to me, I've just been to the doctor, classic story, I've just been to the doctor and I'm not doing very well. If I keep this lifestyle, something bad's going to happen. Enter your something bad. That's great. Validate that, and how keen are you to start? And maybe they're not keen. So then we can also link it to, you know, run away from pain, run towards pleasure. Well, then what about, you know, do you have your work? Is your work meaningful? Do you think that if you had better health in your hips, neck, shoulders, spine, that you would be better at your work if that pain went away? And the answer is yes, of course. Do you think that if you naturally had more energy, vitality, and you've got to earn that, that's a meritocracy. You don't just wake up and be a vital, energetic person. That's a meritocracy. So, but do you think that if you brought more energy to your day, that your work, your life, your connections with your significant other, if you have kids, your mates, do you think that would be more meaningful and you could engage in that in a better way? And the answer is yes. Okay. So you understand that you're scared of dying. Can I just simplify it to be really smash the glass window? Because I am. And death rate in humans is what, 100%? Today it is. Anyway, you know, there's that 500-year-old man out there somewhere, but I haven't seen him.
Come on, Google it. Come on, Google it. Change it.
So there is that fear, but then just like the pursuit and ensue, you know, if you connect to something that's meaningful, genuinely meaningful, it doesn't have to come straight away, because when you start to move better, then all of a sudden the person says, you know what, I didn't tell you this before, but I've always wanted to do an ocean swimming race. And it's been so far away from my current capabilities that I just haven't told anyone. And when I was a kid, I did it and I had a great experience. I did the ocean swim at May in Byron Bay, Australia, swam from Watergoes to the surf club there. I crossed 2 reefs. When I did it, came 7th. I followed a turtle for a while. Literally, that's a true story. It was amazing. So I have this, honestly, I have this desire to do that with my family, my wife and my 2 kids. That would be the best day. So that's one thing that is always in my brain, no joke. It's always there. So it's very easy for me to go for a swim and enjoy the hell out of it, because I'm thinking one day when my kids are older, we're going to be swimming from Watergoes to the Byron Bay Surf Club in May. It's going to be a little bit chilly, but that energy of the event. So I get really excited by that, and that drives my human behaviour.
Sure.
So when people come in and they're full of apprehensions, mate, you know just as good as I do, they're full of apprehensions. Our role, I believe, my role, is to find something that will initiate a commitment. And sometimes I break it down, what is energy? So do you understand periodization?
To some extent,
yeah. Just say, you know, in sickness, if your energy is down, let's start with what is energy. In physics, energy is capacity or potential to do work. Let's apply that to you and I. If I bring more energy to my day, then I should be able to get more work done. If I'm low on energy, then I can't get as much work done. If I'm high on energy, I'm vital, I should be able to get more work done. And everybody knows that. Compounding that, if you work in an environment, you own a business like I do, or you're in someone who's in a leadership role, the energy you bring to your day is what? It's contagious. Everybody's heard that. Energy's contagious. So, here comes Jono, that guy, he's just such negative energy, he just brings the room down. Energy's contagious. All of a sudden, here comes Phil. Phil's a bloody great bloke. Am I allowed to? That's a little bit of a cuss word. Is that okay?
Yeah.
You guys cool with that?
Of course.
Right. Okay. Phil's a bloody great bloke. Whenever he comes in, he just lights the room up. Like when you spoke at Inside Scoop, when you were speaking, everyone, you could just see everyone sort of sat up because yours was the dominant energy in the room because you were giving the presentation, but it's also contagious. So I don't know about you right now. That's genuinely a true statement about you. But you just smiled. Do you sort of go, "Well, that's pretty cool. Thanks, Andrew. That's really nice." And actually, I really do like to know that I've got good energy, and I like to know that I can influence people, and that my energy is contagious.
Yeah.
It's subtle things. Do you know what I mean? It's subtle things that people like to know that change is possible. They also like to know that they're doing okay. And if you continue to do what you're doing, you're going to get better. Energy, vitality is a meritocracy. All those things that you want to achieve, you have to earn. I'm afraid it's not going to come to you for free. And you know what's worse? There's no one in a white coat or there's no knight in shining armour who's going to come and do it for you.
No.
Of course you can elicit help from outside people who may know the subject better than you and will guide you in the right direction sooner. 100%. Otherwise we wouldn't have a job, would we?
Sure.
And I love my job.
Of course.
And I studied the hell out of it, so I think I can help. I'm confident and I have helped. So using a coach is a really great way. But often those early days, those early sessions let's just connect to something that's meaningful. You know, let's connect. And then it's setting triggers. Years ago, I worked with a lady who was very, very overweight. Like she was morbidly obese. And behaviour change was hard. And there was a whole host of reasons why she ate and all that sort of stuff. But one of the things that was probably when I look back over all, you know, when you learn something from every client, when I look back at that interaction with this lady, let's call her Trevor. That's a guy's name, I know. But anyway, it was a lady.
We're protecting her.
And her name was Trevor. What? Anyway, Trevor, the lady, we made a deal that every day when you get up, Trevor, you have to put on your sneakers. No matter how you feel, no matter what other words in your head, guarantee me that you'll put on your sneakers. And it became a trigger. So once you put on the sneakers, what's next? I might as well go out the door and I'll walk around the block. That's a start. And that's where we started. And me, in my enthusiastic way, trying too much too soon, when we first started working together, I was setting these grand goals based on science and what you needed, but it wasn't working. And she was the greatest teacher for me because I wasn't doing the best that I could do because I was setting the bar way too high, way too soon. Patience is a form of action. Andrew, I'm talking to myself. Patience is the form of action. Find a better option. And honestly, the best option, which set the dominoes for her to achieve what she wanted to achieve, was the biggest thing when I think back about this lady, Trevor. Put your shoes on. Every day she had to put her shoes on. When you put your shoes on, look down and you go, oh, okay, I've got my shoes on. I might as well go outside. And literally that was the step that got her to walk every day around the block. I've walked one lap of the block. You know what? I might as well walk two. And you know what? I might as well take my shopping bag with me and I'll walk down to the wet markets here in Hong Kong and grab some veggies. And that just something so seemingly innocuous and small was the trigger that when I reflect, that was the biggest thing that made a change for her.
I really want to jump in because I think you've isolated something that I think is not spoken about enough, but you often hear about from masters of a lot of trades. And I think within health, this is becoming more and more important. And a lot of people, I think, you'd be able to comment on maybe whether or not it's, I don't really want to lay blame, but maybe it's a social media thing or whatever drives it. I think one of the big things that I often see is that people are looking for something glorious and heroic in exchange of something smaller and consistent and less glamorous. But what I heard from your great story about Trevor, and shout out to Trevor, is that by getting out there and walking, in your mind you may not be doing something Spartan or some type of heroic, amazing behaviour that's going to land you with a six-pack. We always used to, when I worked in health food retail, people used to come in and go, I'd like to buy some protein powder, please. And we're like, sure, here you go. And one of the things I'll never forget is how many people, especially guys, would say, this isn't going to make me too big, is it?
Yeah.
And the guy, my boss, who, big shout out to Ben, he always used to look at them and say, I'm really sorry, but tomorrow you're not waking up like a unit. And it's funny because I think there's a strange interaction and a strange things that go on in people's minds where they don't think walking around the block is going to change something. But I think what I got from your story, and I think it's a really, really important message, is that doing something small consistently is going to build you into someone who can earn more later on down the track.
100%.
And, the reason why I bring that up is because that's compound interest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you can apply that principle in so many different fashions, yet here we are in saying that Trevor changed her life via putting on her shoes and doing something that she could achieve at the time, and then all of a sudden all the ducks fall in a row after a while. And as I said, I think I just really wanted to comment on that a little bit before I get into another question with you, because once again, one of the reasons why I was quite excited to have you on the podcast was because you're at that level where you've seen so many people from all of these different walks of life who all have different goals and different, things that they want, different forms of leverage, for example, different reasons, different sparks for their life, if you like. And I think you've been able to really identify, especially here, exactly some of those sparks and some of the things that are more common threads amongst them. But I don't want to get too carried away on that because
Let's
I do have
paraphrase that in one sentence.
Go for
it. What seems trivial with consistency has the power to be monumental. How about that?
Love it.
Well, it's trivial for that girl to put her shoes on. It was trivial.
Yeah.
Just put your shoes on, Trevor. What?
Yeah.
That's something so small. What may seem trivial, but it's like you said, it's not going to happen today. But walking's not the end goal. Walking is living, let's be honest. Right. If walking is your health program, unless you're walking up hills and stuff, you know what? You need to raise the bar. But if that's where the bar was, and it was for Trevor, walking led to more walking, which led to her being able to handle more load, which meant to her enjoying movement, which meant to her lifting heavier weights, which meant to Trevor changing her life, changing her body composition. It started with something as trivial as putting her shoes on.
Yeah, and
no joke.
And I think that's a really, really, really important message for a lot of people, because both practitioners and patients, and it's funny because I wanted to bring this up, and I'm so glad we're naturally gravitating towards this, but I was talking to one of my other colleagues who's moving out of medicine into health coaching, and she's really, really good. And hopefully I'm going to be able to interview her at some stage. But one of the more interesting things that I think is maybe needs to be talked about more in maybe a better fashion that's a little bit more accessible is that a lot of practitioners don't look after themselves. And you can...
That's crazy, isn't it?
It's
I just don't understand.
So here, let me context this, right? I know some doctors, for example, who will see 22 people a day for 5 days.
Wow.
So 110 people's separate sets of problems a week, constantly for years. And then they'll wake up one day and go, oh, I'm not very healthy either. And the problem is that as soon as they've had that realization, they then kind of go, well, I've got 15 minutes before I see another 10 people's problems.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely it gets pushed away. And where I'm going with this is that a lot of practitioners don't actually look after themselves. And I think this podcast is a call to action for a lot of practitioners who are getting swept up in helping people and doing a great job doing that, but putting themselves often fifth or sixth. And I think if you are one of those practitioners who isn't putting yourself first, then you must understand at some stage things are going to change. But it may also affect your ability to help people as well.
There it is.
Right?
And I apologise for jumping in and saying that's crazy. Who am I to say that?
No. It sounds crazy.
It does. My role is to help people, but if I want to help as many people, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to put more energy into helping people and sacrifice my own health.
Yeah.
Which in the mid to long term means I won't be able to help as many people if that's what drives you. Actually, sort of comes back to, remember I said periodization. If we condense periodization, because it makes a lot of sense for all of this conversation. Periodization at its most basic is energy management 101. It's how much stress is anything that takes energy away from you. So how much stress to how much recovery, that's when I get energy back into my body. So periodization is the equation between how much stress work to how much recovery does my body need in order to maximize growth and minimize burnout, injury. So if I'm another way of thinking of periodization in my world, in athletic development, for example, is planning my training to be the best that I can be on a given date. Where you and I, we've got a boxing match in 3 months' time. I'm going to plan your training so you peak, and it's been done 1,000 times, so I can rely on science and my own anecdotal evidence to know that I can do a pretty good job of that. So that's managing your energy to get to a certain goal. We also think of that, so that might be 3 months, so let's call that a long-term plan. So that's the macro scale. And then you can say, well, we can break that down into meso, the short term. How are you going to manage your energy in each of those months leading up to that 3 month goal? And then there's a micro cycle as well, which is how do you manage your energy every day or in that 1 2 hour training session. So now we can walk away and go, well, periodization is simply energy management, and I want to manage my energy. Energy is my capacity to do work. We already spoke about that. If I manage my energy well, I can get more work done. I can be more effective. If I don't manage my energy well, what happens? I'll decrease or increase the likelihood, of burnout. And that doesn't mean athlete. I'm talking to the practitioner right now.
Yeah.
It's still periodization. When I work with corporates and I go and talk to, see that big building over there, the ICC, and I went over and I talked to corporates in there, like 80 heads of department from 12 countries and, all these cities that I'll go in. And I go in, I'm a keynote speaker, telling dudes who are at the top of the game in finance how to manage their energy. Because why is it important? Because energy is your capacity to do work. So it's not, we think of it, periodization, it's such a profound tool that we can use, because if I can manage my energy, I can get better, not just stronger, but if I manage my energy, if you study 24 hours, what's going to happen at the end of that 24? You don't take any breaks. How effective are you going to be after an hour and a half, probably 2 hours? Not very effective, but keep doing it. And you keep pushing. It's going to come at a cost. It's excessive stress. It's going to lead to breakdown. It's going to lead to mistakes are going to happen. So we understand the cycles of the body, the cycles that we work in, the ultradian rhythm, circadian rhythm. We understand that. We've got a pretty good handle on those. Of course, there's subtle differences between you and me and Trevor. You know what I mean? And we have chance to be better at that. But understanding what we know about science and physiology, using research of circadian rhythms and nutrition and recovery and expending energy and hormesis even, the act of something that is a little bit bad for you in the right context, as long as you support yourself with enough recovery and nutrition, will be good for you. So that's periodization. You know what I mean? And we've taken this concept from the world of, it was first put forward by this guy, Flavius Philostratus, who wrote this book, Ancient Greece.
Please tell me that's his real name.
That's his real name. Flavius Philostratus. Look it up. He wrote, I think the book was called El Gymnastica, but a training manual for the athletes of the ancient Greek Olympics.
Wow.
What a genius. Back then, he was like, hang on, guys. We need to manage our energy. I'm paraphrasing. He probably didn't have an Australian accent. Probably didn't even speak English. Anyway, but to that tune, if you understand these principles of periodization, and I do because I love it and I've studied it, what am I doing speaking to 80 heads of department of a bank over there at the ICC? Because I understand energy management better than all of you guys. You understand, I always, whenever I give a presentation or I work with clients, I always say, hey, total transparency, I'm just a dude with my faults and problems, my passion and my areas of expertise. I'm assuming that you've got your faults and problems, but you've also got your passion, your areas of expertise. All we're doing, we're just getting together to create a power team. This is meta learning. I know something about this small thing about performance that I know better than you. You know so much more about finance and all this other stuff that I wish I knew. I'm just going to share with you guys wholeheartedly what I'm passionate and what I know about. And that seems to be of value. But really, it's just energy management 101. There's ways that we can get better at that, of course, and there's ways that understanding I'm meaningfully connected to, as are high performers, as are people who want to get better. Energy is my capacity to do work. It's my capacity to recover. If you've got low energy, what does that mean? You just said chronic fatigue. If I've overdone it, seeing 22 clients a day for 7 years, meaning I've put a lot of energy out there. How much of those people recovered? Not much Monday to Friday if they're seeing 22 clients a day. No wonder their adrenal glands are like, oh man, not again. Come on, man, let's have a rest. So that can be, we can take it for 5 years maybe. I don't know, pick a number. Everyone's different. At a certain point when you said we're going to wake up, go, oh my God, I feel terrible today. It must have been something I did yesterday. No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Just as performance is cumulative, disease, ill health, mostly is cumulative as well.
It's a case of almost death by 1,000 cuts as well, isn't
100%.
it? And it's funny because I think I've often changed that quote. So it's death by 1,000 shortcuts, because a lot of the time you need to take those shortcuts, and to your point, when you're not replenishing that energy properly. Now, I've got a couple of other questions I want to. I think we could actually maybe do.
I'll be more concise. I'm sorry.
No, you don't need to apologise at all. Because I think we've got some part 2s and 3s coming up, maybe down the track, which is great.
I feel we need to answer, but give the depth. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I feel when I walk away, I'm like, oh man.
No. But you see, what we're coming out of here is that we're seeing the simplicity of it. And that's where people need to understand that it's often the simple things that are hardest to do.
Yeah.
And we're often moving towards, with our obsession with technology, we're moving towards sophistication in such a way that we're forgetting the basics. And we're moving, people don't like looking at a basic solution. Quit sugar. I mean, that's not very...
Yeah.
It doesn't seem very sophisticated when you compare it to, I got someone to test 30,000 genes and I'm this, and this, and this. It was like, well, what did they tell you? Oh, they said I should quit sugar. Well, it's like, well, you know what I mean? Like, it's just the 100%. Same shit.
Yeah.
I just cussed too. Okay, so, no, it's fine. It's nice to speak to someone who has similar ideas. Now, I have a really, really big question here, because I think I wanted to bring up an interesting thing that I think some people will find this question quite interesting. So here we go. I don't warn people about this, so I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Oh, nice.
What's the one thing that you think is normal, but everyone else thinks you're crazy for?
Oh, what a great question. What's the one thing I think is normal? Whew, okay.
Or at least, when I say normal, the one thing that you think should be more important than it is, or take it within your own context. What's the one thing that you think everyone else shouldn't feel is crazy?
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to take this back to the start. Movement, not just movement for the purpose of getting to A to B. Not just movement because I want to get bigger muscles and burn fat and get body composition change. I mean, movement because it is such a gift. Like, when you watch someone dance and you're like, dance is one of the purest forms of communication,
isn't it? Just, yeah.
When you watch someone dance, you're like, that is beautiful.
Yeah, it's physical creation, right?
Yeah, and there's a chance that I might go home and shut the door and have a crack at that when no one's watching, because it just feels great. You know what I mean? So that concept, and you need to earn that as well, and even you need to earn to enjoy it, because, and it's cumulative, of course. Like I enjoy dance when no one's around me because I'm going to let it go.
Why not?
But the better I get at dance, potentially the more I enjoy that.
Yeah.
So why I say movement is when you gently at first take your body through those forwards and backwards, side to side in rotation. I'm being very general because everyone's body's specific, but a principle that will never change is each of your joints need to do that. And when you do that, you will move fluid around the body, let's say blood flow to make it easy for everyone to understand. What does blood flow bring to it when it gets in and around my joints and all around my tissues? Well, blood flow, we know it brings oxygen. We need oxygen to survive. Acutely, we need oxygen to survive. Blood flow will bring some nutrients as well, so nutrients that can help me grow and can help me repair. So that's got to be good. Hydration. It also is going to bring hormones, so it's going to bring hormones to my body. Hormones are going to tell my body to do something good or bad, but hopefully in this context, good. So when I get in, let's call it beautiful movement. It can be, think yoga, cats and dogs, or if I'm dancing and I'm just going through a nice flow state and there's a lot of rotary movements and that movement from the center of my body which ripples out to my arms, like when you watch someone throw a good punch or when somebody throws a ball, that initiation of movement from your center, your hips and your spine, and then there's the delayers and a whipping motion of the arms. When you watch that, you think that was beautiful. Any athlete, like you watch a good martial artist, dancer, anyone that moves really well and looks effortless, like that is a joy to behold. I'm very lucky that, well, I'm not lucky, I work my butt off and I still do because I love it. But I can access that state, and for me that's normal. Honestly, that and I look at people in, joint dynamics, and I go, well, I just wish they could experience that. And sometimes I think sitting on a machine in a gym is just not the best thing for people to do because there's no joy. There's no joy, but I understand it's a means to an end, so I totally validate that. But also I just think if you could just give me an hour, and I guarantee you'll float out of that room and you'll go, I want more of that because I didn't know that my body could feel this way.
Yeah. And look, it's really funny because I think I wanted just to just talk about that for a second, because as people get older and they realise that they've taken too many days off whatever exercise they enjoy, the context starts to change. And I've always said one of my somewhat guilty pleasures when I travel is to watch people to try and lift their suitcase off the ground and try and put it in an overhead bin. And it struck me as I continue to do this that a lot of people couldn't do it. They actually genuinely struggled. Some younger people than you think would actually struggle to take what would look, well, they say it's 7 kilos, but let's say it's 12, really.
Yeah.
Really? And they actually struggle getting that weight over their head. And I think what I really love from your statement there is that exercise isn't just, as you mentioned, just about getting bigger muscles and really, trying to be the best you can be. It's actually about life. And I'm so grateful that you touched on that. I've got one more spontaneous question for you before we finish.
Love these. Took me a while to come up with an answer on that last one, though.
You know what?
I had to look out at the ocean here, or the Victoria Harbour for a while.
It's this is an interesting one as well, and I find this difficult to answer as well. But if you could be remembered for one sentence, what would it be?
No way! That's a great question. If I could be remembered for one sentence, what would it be? Ooh, can there be a tone?
Would it be...
How's that? Does that work? You know when you go surfing with your mates?
Yeah.
You say you're surfing and I'm like, woo!
It's been a while since
Can you put that on my tombstone?
We could.
I don't even know how to spell it.
You know what?
But that's the tone I'd like to be remembered for. The exclamation point. But there's the sentence.
As long as it's not, don't do podcasts with people in rooms with no aircon.
Sweaty. The one sentence. You know what? A few jump to mind. We said one, what seems trivial with consistency has the power to be monumental. That's fact. Please stick that in your back pocket and carry it with you. Just like I carry that swimming race with my wife and my two kids. Carry that one with you because it helps. Things that I will say frequently to people who I'm trying to help. I believe I can help in some regards. Another one of those is disease is cumulative, health and performance is cumulative. It's what you do today and tomorrow. It's what you do over the next 3-4 months that is going to dictate where you are there. And it's not by chance. It's not by chance. Small elements of chance. Of course, I might walk out and somebody threw caseload of marbles. Can't believe that happened. You and I were talking, I slipped on marbles. Acutely in that instant, that was a bit of bad luck. The likelihood of that happening is pretty small. But if over the next 3 months I smoke a packet of cigarettes a day and then I eat compromised foods from 7-Eleven because there's no nutritious food, I think they sell bananas now, but I just buy processed food, in 3 to 4 months, if you ask me how I'm feeling, mathematics sort of says, Andrew, you're going to feel pretty bad. And if I was to take your metrics of blood and all those things, you're not going to be in such a good state of health. Is that a surprise? No. Because it's cumulative. The last 3 months of me not looking after myself is manifested in who I am today. Who we are today is a result of every decision we've made to this point. Most probably in the last 2, 3, 4 years, isn't it? So that's no joke. And actually it's a little bit fearful for some of us, because now I sit back and I go, holy cow, I could have been better at that. But also it's a little bit empowering to know, well, if I want to get better at that, then I just need to do the simple stuff every day. Just need to do the simple stuff every day, and I need an anchor or a behaviour that's going to start it. So I'm going to put my shoes on tomorrow. Thank you, Trevor, for the inspiration again.
Thank you, Trevor.
Tomorrow I'm going to put my shoes on. Bugger it, I'm going to do it no matter what. And I'm going to tell my person that I share the house with, and I'm going to tell you, Phil, tomorrow, mate, I'm going to put my shoes on. And that's going to increase the likelihood of that happening. And once I've done it, everyone says 21 days, I don't know. Once I've done it 21 days, leveraging off what other people say.
Can we say 6 weeks?
Woo! There it is again. That's my tone. Once I've done it, the more often I do it, the more likelihood there is of success, isn't it? So I just need to anchor to that. I need one trigger, putting my shoes on, or me telling you is a trigger. Or me, when I go shopping, I'm only going to buy real foods. Or I grew up in Tamworth, Australia. Country music capital of the world, no less. You hold on, Nashville. Tamworth is number one. Anyway, there's a pub in Tamworth called the Locomotive Hotel. Not anymore, it's closed down, but the Locomotive Hotel, the Loco. And when the country music festival was on, the bikies would come there. So there was this saying in Tamworth, hey, Phil, do you want to just say you said to me, Andrew, do you want to go to the Loco? I'm like, what, do you want to get in a fight? Because if you want to go to the Loco, it means you want to get in a fight. If you don't want to get in a fight, don't go to the Loco. Do you know what I mean? So that's the behaviour. If you want to go to the Loco, the likelihood of some dude pressing up against you and pushing you and calling your name is pretty damn high. If you don't want to put on more weight, and if you don't want to feel like crap, don't have crappy foods in your house. Don't buy crappy foods. So you control that in that moment when maybe you're more on the front side of your brain as opposed to the emotional side. I'm doing my groceries. I maybe have a pen, paper, or my phone. I'm writing things. I'm ticking off boxes. It's very cognitive, isn't it? It's not very emotional. So it's easier for me to make the right decisions when I'm shopping. When I get home and that movie's on and I have this ritual of eating chips and chocolate, oh my goodness, now I'm in the emotional brain because I used to eat chocolate with my mum and dad and I feel special. You know what, I need chips and chocolate to watch television because I used to do that with dad. Don't tell me it's bad for me. If there's no chips and chocolate in my house, what do? Yeah. Dang it. Well, what do I have? Oh, well, I guess I'll eat that apple. Oh, this tastes all right. So if you don't want to get into a fight, don't go to the Loco. Yeah. If you don't want to be unhealthy, overweight, in those moments of shopping when you're in the right part of your brain to make good decisions, don't buy the crap. Don't have it in your house. Because we are weak in one way that we're so flawed and we're emotional. And it's great and it's our emotions that drive behaviour, doesn't it? It really means a lot to me to eat the foods that I ate with my mum and dad. Because they loved me, I love them. And when I eat those foods, I connect to a period of time. So maybe there's an element of alchemy there. Is that really bad for me? I don't know. But it certainly is bad from a blood sugar perspective. It certainly is bad from an oxidative stress perspective with some foods, especially if it's got vegetable oils and all that crappy stuff. So we can control that. We can control that. So I just think it's really important just to make the right decisions. Shopping. That seems so trivial. What? Don't buy crappy foods. Because if you buy them, I guarantee you're going to eat them. 100%. When you put it on the television, you're like, man, I love watching television with chips. You're going to get them. So don't. If it's that meaningful to you to lose weight, if you're that sick, if you're that low in energy and health, if you don't like what you see, don't buy the crap. Don't go to the Loco. Let me tell you, don't go to the Locomotive Hotel. Because you'll eat chips.
I love it.
And chocolates.
That has flown by. And look, I'd like to thank you, Andrew, for joining us today. And, you know, if anything from what I've got from this today is tomorrow I'm going to put my sneakers on.
Beautiful.
And look, I'm sure there's going to be more because I have more questions for you, and I'm just very, very grateful for you coming in today. Now, if people want to get in touch with you, can you tell us, is it jointdynamics.com.hk?
Yeah, exactly. Jointdynamics.com.hk.
And on Instagram?
I'm not very good at social media. I know it sounds terrible.
That's okay.
I went through that period where I did the 6 weeks every morning when we were closed, the morning movement medicine. So I used Facebook. So Andrew Cox is on Facebook. What does that mean? I don't know. I'm on Facebook, and I started an Instagram page at Andrew at Movement Medicine, Andrew Movement Medicine, but I just don't check it. I need to get better at that. I really do.
But look,
but you can find me. I'm
you're
that
around.
thing called Google. Have you ever heard of that?
I have. And you know what? Funnily enough, one of the questions I asked you was from the Google interview process. So there you go. Well, look, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we'll get to do this again because, as I said, there is just so much more I want to ask you. But for today, Andrew Cox, thank you for joining us.
Great to be here.
The INL podcast is brought to you by Integrated Nutraceuticals Limited, Hong Kong. If you want to know more about INL, natural medicine, or how to unlock the potential of our range, simply go to www.inl.asia and sign up for our newsletter, or simply browse through our education section to see what you can find. We'll be back soon with another episode. Thanks for joining us.